What is home? Home is our safe place. Home is our sanctuary, away from the rest of the world. It is that place that we go to recharge and rest, to reconnect to nature, our loved ones, and ourselves. It's a quiet night and a warm fire at the end of the day. Home is a farmhouse in the field. Welcome.
Hi, this is Stacy K in the Farmhouse in the Field. Today I thought we would weave a rag rug. Now I love these beauties. You see how pretty this is? Imagine this in your house, maybe in your kitchen or a bathroom or even a bedroom, because it's really gorgeous. And you know what I love the most about these rugs? Well, this right here and down here are made from old sheets. This gray right here, this is a pair of old sweatpants that had a rip in them. And down here, this green, this is what's left over from a quilting project. So from something that's just scraps and things that you may have otherwise thrown out, you can create a beautiful gift-worthy project that is so much more total than a sum of its parts. This would be gorgeous for anyone's house. And think about this. You could have all your Christmas gifts done 6 months early. So maybe 2 weeks. You can have something as beautiful as this to keep in your house or to give away. So this is our loom. This loom measures 27 inches across and approximately 39 inches long. It's basically, you can see, it's the short ends are screwed on to the large ends, and we'll turn it around here. You have brads. First one looks like 1/2 inch, but brads that are approximately nailed in place about 1 inch apart. You're going to have eye screws on the top and the bottom on both ends. And then you have, and I'm not even sure what these screws are called, but you have basically a hook screw that is screwed in, and we have 3 of those. 1, 2, and 3. We have a bent rod, which is threaded through. This one's not particularly at the moment, but it's threaded through each of these, and it feeds right down to the very base. So you can see there's not much to this loom. We're going to have 1 bent rod at the top and 1 bent rod where the rod is at the bottom. The reason why this is important, as we'll see in a minute, is because we weave on either side of this loom. And we want to be able to, at the end, to just pull those bent rods out, and that is what's going to allow us to release the loom at the end of this. Now let's talk about fabric. Again, this is great if you're ending up with, say, something like my lovely towel here, which has obviously worn spots and really can't be used. I mean, you could use it, but at some point you kind of go, it's time for a new towel. Or even pajamas. or a nightgown, or your sweatpants, something where there's a rip where it really, you can't do anything with them. Maybe you could cut them off and make summer shorts out of them, but that's about it. So anything that's ripped or even stained, if you can, it's going to be folded in on itself, so you may not even see that stain. Those can be used to rip up, to make your material. Now, if it is a woven material, like these pajamas, the easiest thing to do is I cut them approximately 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches at that. And a woven, because you have a weft and a warp, it's woven, it's like that. You can actually just make that clip and then rip that all the way down. You can do that with shirts, you can do that with sheets, you can do that with anything that's woven. Now the opposite of that is going to be something that's a knit. Now knits you can't do that with. The reason why is because a knit is made so that you have stretch. And the way it's constructed is in little knots. And that's why you can pull those knots in and out in order to make that fabric stretch. So a knit is, you're never going to be able to go straight down because there's no straight threads. In order to do a knit, you would actually have to go through and cut all the way down. So like these are my sweatpants, I had to cut all the way down. Now to create a warp, the great thing about these rugs is, unlike a loom where you're actually going to see the strings that are holding that material in, with this loom you are weaving around this material. So you're not ever going to see this material unless you drop a stitch. So you can use some of that but ugly material that you have in your stash if you're a quilter or a sewer, or some ugly clothes that you really don't want to be seen in a rug or anywhere. You can actually put those as your warp because it's going to be surrounded by the fabric that you're going to weave through it. It's not going to ever be seen on the top. So if you've got something like Halloween fabric that maybe you don't really want to be seen in your rug, you can put that as your warp and nobody will ever see it. Now on the other side of that, keep in mind that you're only seeing about 1/4 inch of that fabric when it's all said and done. So something that maybe like the Spider-Man fabric that I bought for my son when he was little, and obviously at 21 he doesn't want it anymore, that I can now use in that rug, and you're going to see a teeny tiny bit of it. I know I made a rug for my brother and I used the Spider-Man material, and he still will point out, he says, I see Spider-Man in there. I'm going, yeah, good eye. So you can put in fun little material as well. You know, somebody's going to enjoy that. Somebody's going to catch something in there and they're going to think that's neat. So to actually create this warp, and you're going to need, I think when I took this off, it was actually about 171 inches of warp. So it's a lot. But to create this, obviously you're not going to have a piece of fabric that big. And even when you're weaving, you're going to run out of fabric. Now this is very, very simple to create a warp. There's no sewing involved. You're going to take fabric 1, put fabric 2 on top of that, so like so, and then you're going to bend it near the end. You don't want it all the way towards the end, but you want it near the end. Okay, because you don't want a lot of fabric, but you also don't want it to rip off. And then all you're going to do is you're going to make a small cut. Okay? Once you've made that small cut in both pieces of fabric, as such, what you're going to do is you're going to take fabric number 1 and put it on top. So just like so. Okay, now fabric number 1 is going to come off to the back. So now we're looking at the back side of fabric 2, the gray fabric. And we're going to take fabric number 1 and we're going to fold it around. So you see it's folding around fabric too. And you're going to come through that hole as such, and you're just going to bring it all the way through. So once you've got it through, kind of joins on both sides, you pull it tight. And now you've just created that warp. So you're going to need approximately 171 inches of warp to do our loom. Alrighty, so in order to start our loom, we're going to go for the first brad, and all we're going to do is we're going to make a little square knot. But the important thing is we want to leave a tail. So we don't want it right up at the end. We want to have a tail down because we're going to weave that into the rug so you never see that knot. So we're going to make a simple square knot. We're going to bring it to the brad, and then we're going to tighten it down, leaving that tail. Then we're going to bring it all the way down to the bottom, come around that next brad, bring it all the way back up, and we're going to do it all the way across the loom, catching the next brad. And when we end, just like the beginning, we're going to do a square knot and leave a tail so that we can have that end tail braided back into the rug. Okay, so we have warped this entire frame now. You can see I've got some Halloween fabric, we have some bed sheets, I have some polar fleece in here, some more sheets, some sweatpants, and more sheets. Now we're ready, and you'll see down at the bottom we have a knot with a tail, just like we had at the beginning. Okay, so to start the weaving, we're going to take a long piece of material, and this is what's important. Notice my ends are very staggered. We do not want this ending at the same point, because just like basket weaving, if we had these ending at the same point, you're going to have a lump in your rug right at that point. So we don't want that. So to start with, we're going to go around the bent rod, and we're going to go around our first piece of fabric. Okay? So we're going to, you see how it's totally encased. So you're never going to see this fabric. We're going to take the top one, and we're going to take the first of the pair on the next brad, and we're going to weave that through. Okay, so now we're going to take this one that's on top and weave it through the second one. And we're going to continue that way. And we're going to use our fingers as almost a beater, or to push this up. Now at the beginning row, we're not going to worry too much about tension, because when we get down, we're going to go around to the other side. So let's get all the way down here. And one thing I forgot to mention is you want a good tension on your warp and even your weft that you're weaving. This is the weft, because you don't want it too loose, otherwise you're going to be able to see the background fabric. But on the second hand of that, you also don't want it so tight that it's pulling on your brads, because then if it ever does come out, you're going to be miserable. Okay, now you see we're almost at the end, but we're almost out of material, and this is going to happen throughout this rug. So again, we're going to double it. We're going to fold it in half, clip it, enough for it to go through, and then we're going to fold it one on top of the other. So we'll put the finger through it. And then we're going to take the top piece, and we're going to feed it through the back. And we're going to tighten it. So then we'll continue weaving almost to the end here. And don't worry about this first row being slightly loose. You want to keep the weaving somewhat tension, but it's going to be going up and down. When we get to the end, we'll take care of that. Okay, so we're now near the end. We're on our last piece of material. So this one we're going to go around to the back. Okay, we're going to bring it up. Okay, we're going to bring this down through to create a knot. And we're going to knot it. And then we're going to push all of our material up using your fingers to create it like a shuttle. And then we're going to start again. We're going to start with one on the bottom here this time, and we're going to go over, and we're going to continue doing that all the way across. Now you're going to weave to approximately maybe a quarter of the way down, and then you're going to start it on the other side. So then you're going to start it on this side. So we're going to start at this end, just like we did up here, with a long piece folded in half, and then we're going to weave across. Okay, and this is going to take a while. Typically, if I'm religious about it, it takes about 2 weeks for me to get a rag rug completely done. Most of the time, I'm not religious about it. But I want to have you weave as far down here and as far up here as we can, leaving at least about maybe 2 or 3 inches in the middle. And I'll show you how we stop.
The closer we get to the end of our weaving, we have a very small channel of trying to get this fabric through. What I find really helpful is to use a crochet hook. You can weave in and out from the front and the back to get that material in order to pull it through. And it's especially important when we get to the point where we almost can't even find that path. Locate that path and use that hook to pull that material in and out. Now, not everybody does this, but I do like to feed my ends through about 2 or 3 rows of weaving, and that way it just secures it. So I use the hook again, I pull that fabric up, and then I use the hook to pull the loop through. Once I pull that loop through, then I use the scissors and I can clip it off because I know it's secure because it's through at least 3 rows of weaving at this point. Okay, now we're going to remove this off the loom. We pull both bent rods from either end of the loom, so from this top one, and we'll do it on the other side. And then all we have to do is simply unpluck these from the brads. So here's the second loom where we flipped it over, we're pulling that out. making a tremendous noise in the process. Then what we're going to do is we're going to simply pull these off the brads. So one at a time, just lifting them up. And because they're hooked around, there's no worry about anything unraveling because they're hooked right back into the rug. Now the only other thing that we have to keep in mind is there's those eye hooks in there. And they will, during our weaving, we may get this around it, so we just unhook it gently off of it. And we flip it around again, unhook the eye hook, and then we'll do it off the brads again. And once we've done this all the way across, we have a brand new rug in order to enjoy and keep our feet warm while we're washing dishes or in our bathroom, or even to give away as a gift. It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of artwork that we've just created.